Abusia my work about Efambra COCOTV so na krata beto me na so ene say EIB network ababonten abetron sembi ana nsema mo ebe kan ni nyina afa ye nia ba ye sister SERWAA me here ehu emunse meken kan e de ama wona so hu senia esitie na no so na nche no it's alleged say SERWAA me here the ambassadorial deals no one of them idea we lose with energy drinks company no we lose sa ambassadorial deal no now asked to say in relations to any video about one there and then to see into true but it's alleged so we lose the ASN ambassadorial deal no now BERLA MUNDI and our media general on so ever can be na nensem kayeni no in relation to time na EIB network I make us a GH1 no.
So latter part of my days at GH1 things had become very tough. Now while I was there things took a turn because I was disobedient. I knew I had to go, but I wasn't going. So God said, if that's the case, thank you. If that's the case, then I'm going to make it even more difficult for you. So now all the negative things that had to happen would happen. The backbiting started. There were a lot of accusations here and there. There were people who were treating me like I didn't matter. And I just didn't understand what it meant.
Yeah, and I was some more fame, no fame, she said about something. So I have 4 NTB. And so what if I want now to what so it's a yes, I'll be a good decision now to move on in life. In same way, no matter what, say in summer SEC, na me deba some more. Aha, COCOTV. So I want subscribe here. Best over subscribe. Now about notification button so at the mommy. We share from our for no never share. Like never comment section on them. Mommy. And then I make I will say, I retire about solution as some as near. Me didn't say me ever some more. We say about solution, Koko Hojima, Koko Adokro, Koko about to Ama Winton means Nasa Diaco. When you tell when I say it, could you Koko don't even know name born into a say and for mouth. Koko man can a phone and never emanate you answer. Make us a good one man, it's one to make a kind of sa. Just say, oh, wonderful. I cook on a Pacific road and into a money, yes, sir. But you would no, never be into me and Kuye and from mouth. Osanso ewo memedru ewo ba ne medu kaka hye ankasa mo bi a te se what the best restaurant ho so kasa be ma ne mu yedu se ye tintin te se me say dia se ni gina o hu dru ho into Kyekyekutv opposite gate 3 eye cars kwan na so ne koje wo de na no never be serious so na bibia enkuye emfa ma ho ne number ne na wo screen so bo modern so obefa na oni ne di nkita ho ti e ko nsem ne so dia na ebusuafo krata eye EIB network e de abeto abonten no eno na me ba be kenkan e de a kire wo no a che se o makuntiri ankasa na nsem ni na efa sister SERWAA ameye eho se na me din kankan ye no na nkofo dodo na esisi se na are ntina nipa akoya bibi na asat now no yen taking off the screen na still no that so hosting the program or hosti che se I can say EIB network omubu mo ni egunu mo bi so se na ya TV3 e ba ye I've now called the buyer and take action. I didn't know this particular one. I want so Mundi so no mun take action, sir. And then I just say, I'm so so on focus out muti into the Musa track say for immediate release, where press release by April 10th, yeah. And now we better about him. EIB network addresses recent developments involving SERWAA here. Not to say, no matter what was SERWAA me here. And then I some more addressing. Management of EIB network has noted with concern the circulation of a private video purported to be one of our employees, SERWAA here, who is a broadcast journalist with GH1 TV. We are also aware that criminal proceedings have been instituted by the state against certain persons who are alleged to have published the said video. This has delayed our public comment on this issue. Management has also decided to conduct an independent investigation into the circumstances surrounding the release of the said video. The company will accordingly publish the findings of the independent investigations as soon as same is completed and further measures will be taken thereafter. The EIB brand remains steadfast in its commitment to integrity and accountability and appreciates the continued support of our stakeholders. Signed, Management EIB Network. And as I say, nincheshe mu no ni sofa ba mu na ne say and dey cause of video bi e better about say nyina hu say wa me here ene ya fit e wo mu no na sisi ane dey e ya dey aban ene ne sa bebrem na asem no because social class na ba want na the republic versus Adam ene candidate ena Henry Fit enti no asem na hodi court nsi aban sem ne dey na omuntimi emfa bebia mba meto abonti ekire dey wo so mo ya ne say ombaye ko na say proceedings be ebe ba court na ekire na say omo so take any action after that na no so manche no omo EIB network no omo so ye omo independent institution investigation omo ye institution afasa asem no na dey ombe hu we bia no omo so be ma obia ehu senia asem no esisi omo anga sabe publish ama obi ehu senia asem no esiko ensi ehu se sister se we taking it off the screener say wa me here and taking off the screener na the entia and I sentia ama omo ntimi entu sa anamo no eno no ena omo de abeto abonten no na we di asem we ba ya ne de nkofo bebre na ese omo ntia se say e ba ne say na asem we e ba ye na che say state metimedina say wa me here na emu etima take legal actions na nkofo dodo na kire say ye ku hu omo fala fa omo mudi ye kidnap nkofo na no che say aban ntimi nya hwemfa and de nkofo a che say omo bo enwe sa asem we hu kra na ne nyina kanfo ano che say ambassadorial deal la enu say ye public figures na na normally no benya ambassadorial deals na sisi ane de it's alleged say one of the energy drink companies Lamborghini energy drink no say wa me here sisi ane de ono omo eni takabia normally no na intensive say we ka ya say wale kwa de ba ye na say images bi ba ye no de na one kasa pro ko omo je o omo antaminate no nemum kwa mo hye mu kana into this particular one we are not expecting to say the ambassadorial deals that they are going to take it off, but as I seem say this one is quite unfortunate say abanesa so they are saying say ne deal no they are taking it off and na yengo tie send ya is emra.
It's quite unfortunate that I have to share this, that when it has to do with the brand and ambassadorial thing, SERWAA here has actually lost one of her brand ambassadorial deals. You remember somewhere in September last year, that's 2023, she was unveiled as a brand ambassador for one energy drink. Unfortunately, as we speak, she's no longer a brand ambassador for the company. As to whether that is in relations to the issues that is happening or what is popping on the internet and all that I cannot tell, but I can tell you on authority that she's no longer an ambassador for Lamborghini energy drink. If you check SERWAA's social media status, or should I say her Instagram, somewhere 28 weeks ago, she actually posted a picture of herself and says, my all-time favorite Lamborghini is the Lamborghini energy drink. And she actually appeared, or she went to the venue in a Lamborghini, and people started talking on social media and say, hey, she's bought a new car, and who bought that car for her? People said so many things, and she had to actually get on Twitter or X to clarify and say, listen, I have nothing to do with the car does not belong to me, before people start accusing me of sleeping with somebody who gave me that car, or accusing me of, you know, she actually went on X and said that, and for the records, I do not own the Lamborghini I was seen driving in the video circulating. It was only a prop brought by the franchise owners, and I am a brand ambassador for add a bit of color to the event. So they actually used that just to add color to that particular event. But as we speak, she's no longer a brand ambassador of this particular product. I mean, she's still
Coco president in you.
Oh, Bakupe.
Which similar to form.
Oh,
very free.
Oh,
I'm free. I saw now what they are putting. Coco Nyanda.
Oh, Miss Obama cross out of one.
Bama, some Nasawa, Obama, some to form our own pavilion. Yeah. What did when it Jenya or Bama?
Make a venture. What
I say?
Obama, but what did you work cross out of?
I'll call about from Bama from. So, dear. But you and sorry, I did my jet.
On one echo.
Because speed.
That's it. You're about 2 hours.
Coco president. For number to Janum from.
Oh, Coco, no man, that's no. That's good. So 0241740609.
Ebusia, my young son, some Nessuanas and Siciano. Na enanche no ena chese eye Bella MUNDI Siciano owo TV3 no eka host omo host the new day show no na chese obeka nsem bi na nsem kan ni nyina ya bra na no so ewo GH1 EIB network no di ofemu ewo ho na kosem nyina re ba batu abonten ama manfo so ehu sania asifemu ho no sometimes no wo baby a backbite ne sanu no ekoso no so achire na kosem efa science em no ho tienkwe ni enkotie senia osi echechensem no mu efai.
So latter part of my days at GH1, things had become very tough. I felt like I had grown to a certain limit and the platform could not offer me what I wanted anymore. But I was afraid to make that bold step to leave. And that was because my whole journey as a broadcast journalist had started with GH1 when it was for Charterhouse and eventually when EIB bought it. So from the inception up until that point in my life, I felt like I owed the company, something, a favor, or my career. And so it was going to be very difficult for me to say finally that I'm done and I need to move. I was looking for a way to move because things had become very difficult. I just wasn't finding myself in that space anymore, be it relating with people, the work I was doing, because even before I started the show I was doing before I left, I was doing rhythms. And I always say that every time there needs to be a move, I just wake up, sit in my bed, and God tells me, my friend, it's time, write this down, and I do. And so I had just started the late afternoon show. Just 1 year into it, I had won an award. Then there's an opportunity for me to move, and I'm thinking, I fought so hard to have this show go on air. Because when I wanted it on air, my bosses said, I'm sorry, this is not going on air. We're not letting you leave your previous show because we're not sure we can find anybody to replace you. And so instead of creating a void, we'd rather you stay there and just plateau. I mean, they didn't say plateau, but they just said, we also couldn't find anybody who could do that job, so you might as well stay there. But I had interviewed everybody that mattered in the music industry, in the arts industry, and I was tired. Because a month later, the same person would come and I have to now think of what other question to ask. Because I was recycling them over and over. So I told myself I was done with this and I needed a show that would challenge me. And I was done talking about music only and what are you doing, what's your album about. I just wanted something a bit more challenging. My bosses said no. I had to fight. I had to cry. There were guests who would walk into the building and they'll find me crying. And they're thinking, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, my bosses don't want me to start my new show. And it was all very upset because they just didn't understand the backstory of it. Now, eventually, I had people who helped me and I started that show. A year into that show, I'm told, it's time to move again. And I'm telling God, but you just gave me this idea. So why do I have to move? And he says, well, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. Because I made you start this show for a reason. And that was supposed to prepare you for the next journey. I still didn't understand. So TV3 gets in touch with me. The first time, I want to move. I tell them, okay, I'll come. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, you people, you're jokers. I'm not moving. So I accept, I sign a contract and everything. It's time for me to move. And then I have to tell them the bitter truth. I'm sorry, but I cannot make it. And it pissed everybody off, I'm sure, at TV3. They were very disappointed because they were just about ready to, put out the PR and say, so BERLA is joining us. And this is me being so afraid to move. And so I got stuck in that space. For another 6 months, I was there. Now, this move came in March. So if my calculation is right, the final move I made was in September. So maybe about 5-6 months. Now, while I was there, things took a turn because I was disobedient. I knew I had to go, but I wasn't going. So God said, if that's the case, thank you. If that's the case, then I'm going to make it even more difficult for you. So now all the negative things that had to happen would happen. The backbiting started. There were a lot of accusations here and there. There were people who were treating me like I didn't matter. And I just didn't understand what it meant. But it was just God making the space uncomfortable for me. So eventually, I just told my manager that, you know what, let's see if there's still an opportunity at TV3. So we started having that conversation. They said, well, there is an opportunity still. We left that slot open for you. However, you need to assure us you're coming because we're not going to put together all the materials, getting ready to announce, and you won't come again. And I said, oh, I'm very sure I'm going. Because at that time I had it. I just couldn't take it anymore. I didn't see myself growing at that point. I was more depressed than, so I'd come to my show. If my show started at 3 o'clock, I'd get to work at 2:45. That's how badly I didn't want to be in that space. So 2:45, I'm there, and my boss is looking at me like, why are you coming this late? I'm like, oh, sorry, boss, I was doing something. But really, I'd wake up in the morning, and there was really no drive for me to want to be in that space. So I come at 2:45, my show ends, it's an hour, so it ends at 5, and I'm out. And that was consistent for a while. So I knew it was time. Luckily for me, there was an opportunity, and I had to move. Now, before that, I needed to ask myself, what really is your goal? Because it's not enough to say, I'm not comfortable here, so I just want to move. Sometimes you don't have a plan. Sometimes God has a plan for you.
Balamundi akanesem na ewie ne na se enye ne bonus so na emum no the person ochire nyina ne se na ya kwan anya ko pese ofaso a opagya ne dinu duru be fofo because there was a time na opese host the program the boss am siasia am na host because we interview celebrities na manasa aso so repeat almost or repeat questions be no ko be so and also say the opese host the program fofo no na to say the boss and siasia am na the argument by a man would say obeko but although no a hono no share the career na say nti na ye say because no why indebted to them and no almost all people and then am so ma na wo so fa akonya foforo so according to her if akonya foforo so at say backbiting na ne ma say o ma space na very uncomfortable for her and then your man say fasa nyina de be ya wo nti wo pa wa mpo wa na obeko ha na say nam so ma odene ni akire mo media general sisi ano owo TV3 host the new day show. Nanya no kwa into so I only other shows now August. Na ensema ayebala mundi e dey abeto abonten enso eno. Ebusia mame fa wosia say. Miri eni ekia afra.